This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario. Hi everyone, it is Rebecca and Tara, and today we are doing a Black History Month podcast to celebrate February. Today's February 1st and the first day of Black History Month, and I assume it's the same in Canada, correct?
Yeah.
Is it?
Unless I'm
Okay.
completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
You should be much more knowledgeable than I am. I am confident, yes, it is Black History Month.
Now, is March Women's History Month for Canada? I think it's not. Is it?
Oh, I
Or
don't
is
think
it?
I don't know. I'm going to say I don't know because,
I think you do it like in the
yeah,
fall or something, I feel
hmm,
like.
I'm going to have to, I'm terrible at keeping up on my what month it is, on that, all that stuff. I have to do much better.
Yeah, the only reason I know is because if you work in libraries, you pretty much know like
You
what
gotta.
month is what because you get so much publicity materials and things related to it, so you kind of know. But anyway, so we'll start out first by saying, or I will start out, what do you have to talk about? Anything new and exciting in your life today?
Yeah, so last week I went to a book event at our local library, and I'm going to hold up the book for Rebecca. I went to see Jenny Austria Bonifacio, who is the author of Reuniting with Strangers. It's a beautiful book. There it
Yeah.
is, which was long listed for Canada Reads. And I got to go see her at the at our Burlington Library, and she was amazing. I'd already mentioned this to Rebecca, but I'm going to say it again. So most of I want to say all of them, but I'm not going to, I don't want to be that definitive. But generally, whenever I've gone to a library event, an author event, it's one of the librarians asking questions of the author, and they're up at the front just chit chatting. This time she got up and she was like, he asked me if I wanted to do that. I don't. I like to get up and do like a little stand-up comedy thing, although it wasn't stand-up comedy, but she's very funny. She's adorable. And she's
Yeah.
like, and have like a PowerPoint presentation, and I like to just do my own thing. And she was amazing. So I highly recommend if she comes to your area to check her out because she was very knowledgeable, very entertaining, very funny. She is a speaker. She is a public speaker. It's what she does, I think, in her career, and she's comfortable doing that. So I haven't been to a book event like that ever. She brought cake because she was like,
Wow.
yes, because she's Filipino, and she's like, we never go anywhere without bringing anything. So she's like, the librarian has no idea, but I brought cake and it's over there. Help yourself. And then at the end of the event, and she's like, we also never end, or, we always end every party with a group picture. So she's like, it would be awesome if you all came up and we took a big group picture. And I went with my oldest, Keegan, and I looked at Keegan and I'm like, are we doing? And Keegan's like, yeah, let's go do this. So we're like, and I think everyone minus like two people got up and did the group picture with her. She's delightful. It was really fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a presentation like that. So if
Hmm.
I ever had the opportunity, I would 100% see her publicly or
Yeah.
in public, as well as I want to read that book because that
Yes.
actually was one of the ones I think I wanted that one for the short list.
Yes, I think we both did. I
Yeah.
don't know if we both, I know you did for
Hmm.
sure, and I was like, yeah, yeah. She gives a really good, like, the background as to what motivated or inspired the book based on her work that she does visiting schools throughout the region and stuff, and helping families from the Philippines with their children, like, adjust to life back together here in Canada. So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
looking
looking
forward
forward
to
to
it.
reading that one. So,
Yep.
well, for me, I will just say this. I'll be brief about this. I have a family illness going on, and so I returned my sweet Aurora, my little puppy, back to the program because there was just no way I was going to be able to spend the time and give her the attention she needed. And so they're going to find her a great puppy raiser so that I can kind of manage things at home. So it's I'm heartbroken,
Mhm.
for I'll start to cry, but for many reasons, but it's all good. So
Yeah.
anyway, the plus side, I guess, is that I get to read more. So
Yep.
yeah, I
Yep.
have more time to read, which is a good thing. So
Yes. And you went to, not to interrupt you, but I'll leave it on a good note. Like you had a great day today, and you went
I
to
did.
the art gallery and saw something that was
Oh, I
very prevalent
did.
for today.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a great young black artist, Mario Moore from the Detroit area, born and raised in the Detroit area. And I went to the exhibit and it was just fantastic. He takes sort of historical images but puts a modern spin on it. And I sent Tara one of the images, which was of a young black boy, kind of a drummer, kind of a Civil War type drummer. But the image, when you came around the corner, it's just like this bright orange and flames. And
That's
this boy
beautiful.
is like drumming. It's just incredible. And I just had the best time going through that entire exhibit. It's not a Black History Month exhibit per se, because it'll go through April. But if you're in the
Mhm.
Flint area, Flint, Michigan area, I highly recommend going and checking out this exhibit. It was just really just every image was just so stunning because he uses really vibrant colors,
Mhm.
tells a little bit about the history of Black Americans in the Detroit area, because there was a whole thing too about the fur trade. And so he had all these modern images of family and friends wearing furs and really talking about that, how the French settled the Detroit area and it was a fur trade, et cetera. So anyway, just fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. Had a great time today for that. So, and I need to know, what are you currently reading?
Oh, yes. So currently, I am reading Moon of the Turning Leaves by
Oh my gosh.
Waubgeshig Rice. So
Yeah.
the sequel to Moon of the Crusted Snow. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm about 3/4 of the way through.
Ooh.
I am really enjoying it. It's kind of like a quiet read, and then bam,
Mhm.
something will happen. And I remember, I think that's how the first book was too. Like and it's a journey book. Like it's a group of people that they're journeying, and so it's sometimes it's just quiet, and we're just going through the woods and how they are surviving and getting to where they need to go, and then something happens. It's a beautiful book.
I read the first book when it came out, which was right around the pandemic. I mean, I was
Yeah,
literally reading it when everything shut down.
yeah.
Now, am I gonna need to go back and sort of reread that a little bit to be able to catch up on the current story, or is there enough, kind of goes back and explains a little bit of what
Yeah,
happened?
I think you're good. It's like 10, 12 years after the first book,
Okay.
and they don't like set it up at the beginning and tell you what happened in the first
Mhm.
book, but there's enough thrown in at various spots that just like will be like, "Oh yes, that's right, that happened," kind of thing.
Now, did you remember much about the first book as you were reading this one, or no?
Um, I remembered like a general feel to
Mhm.
the first book and the main thing at the end, but that was it.
You know what I
That's
remember about the book? And I actually kind of love this. I feel like, now I don't know if this is actually what happened, but this is kind of what
yeah,
I remember, is that all the white people in the Toronto area, like I feel like there was some one or two that tried to glom on to the rest of them or something and they
yeah.
got shut down. I just don't remember if that's what happened or not, but I just sort of had this memory of like, well, yeah, you're not gonna show up at the last minute after you've screwed everything up and then try to take over and was that true about that? Do you remember that at
Yeah,
all?
yeah, I know there was a one particular white man who made his way up there, yeah, and tried
Yeah,
to
yeah.
take over, yeah. I was gonna say, and also I did last night, I attended like a virtual online event with WOB given by Eden Mills Writers Festival, which might
Oh,
still be
nice.
available on their website. I will check that out, and if so, I'll send the link to you, Rebecca, so you can add it to the show notes for people, and
Okay.
which was really nice. So he talked a lot, obviously, about the book and what his research going into the book, and it was a nice insight, and it was also spoiler free because I had not finished reading the book, but I
Yeah.
watched this event last night, and I wasn't like, dang it. So it's a good spoiler free discussion of the book.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, that was a surprise. I didn't know you had it, or now did you buy it, or did you
I borrowed it from
the
my
library?
mom.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. Well, that's good to
Yeah.
know because I was thinking that I do want to get that read this year because it's been out came out last year,
Like
like
last
halfway through
fall?
the year. Was it the
Yeah.
fall? Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. Oh
I
yeah, I
can't
think it
remember,
was
something like
fall.
that. Yeah. What are you reading?
Well, I'm reading one of the books that I'm going to talk about tonight briefly.
Okay.
I picked it up at the library, which I'll explain in a minute. But I don't want to show it yet because
Oh,
I want it to be a surprise. And
surprise.
then I'm also going to read 15,000 Pieces, which
Oh,
is the book
yes.
that you just read by Gina Leola Woolsey, and it sounds fabulous, made me want to read it right away. So, I'm
Yeah.
going to be reading that one next as well. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent.
So, how about Black History Month? What do we have? What do you have for Black History Month?
Well, do you want me to start or would you like to start?
I'm going to let you start. I think I started
Okay.
last time, so we'll let
Okay.
you start this time.
Well, I'm going to start it off with a couple of books, but I'll start with the first book that I've actually read. I'm going to start with a couple of books that I've read and then move into books that I'm looking forward to reading. If
Okay.
not in February, then, sometime
Yeah.
through it this year. And I think, I may end it with another book that I've read. I'm all over the place. Who knows? Anyways, I just tried to make it seem like I have a pattern. I don't. I just looked at these books and I'm like, there's no pattern. They're all scattered through it. So, anyways, ignore that. Let's start with a book that I have read, and I
Okay.
read this a year ago. I read it in January 2023, and it is In the Upper Country by Kai Thomas, which was his debut book, shortlisted for the 2023 Governor General's Award and the 2023 Amazon Canada First Novel Award, and winner of the 2023 Atwood Gibson Writers Trust Fiction Prize. I was actually surprised this book was not on the Giller this year, but that's one I was expecting to see. So that was a little like,
I was
interesting. But
too.
yeah, but it got its due in other awards. So that's all cool. Here's a little setup for it. So it's set in the Black communities of Ontario that were the last stop on the Underground Railway. So not present day, like I can't remember the date, but sometime in the 1800s, a long time ago. After an incident involving a slave hunter, two women, young Lucinda and old Cash. I'm sorry that it just sounds. I like when I say young Lucinda, and then when I say old someone's
Yeah.
name, it's like, oh, that's. But it's not an insult. They're one's young, one's old.
It's a privilege to be old, let me say.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. They begin a storytelling journey together through the exchange of stories, the interwoven history of Canada and the US, of the Indigenous peoples and Black peoples is revealed in how they exchange their stories. I really enjoyed this one, and I not only enjoyed the story and these two women, they're fantastic characters. I learned so much. Like it's in our Canadian history, we're told we were the Underground Railway, that we were essentially the salvation of the slaves who got away from the US, and we were
Mhm.
not always the welcoming country that we like to think we were. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
That's a book that I definitely want to read, and when I was sort of looking up books, that one was almost at the top of the list of books that I was looking at that thought,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's right," because I remember you read it and really, really gave it a fabulous review, so that is on my list. Okay, I'll go next, I guess?
Yeah.
I just wanna mention, I'm not gonna go into a great detail for the first 3 I talk about just because we did a nonfiction November podcast, so I would recommend if you're interested in these titles to go back and listen to that November, podcast that we did just this past year. But so I bought these books. I had gone to Cincinnati and went to this great, museum. It was an Underground Railroad museum and Freedom Center, I think is what it's called, and I ended up picking up these 3 books. So the first one was Driving the Green Book: A Road Trip Through the Living History of Black Resistance by Alvin Hall. And the Green Book was a book for Black Americans to know where to what hotels to stay at, what restaurants to eat at if they were on the road traveling, because that meant they were Black owned businesses and that people were safe to travel and to use these establishments. So that's the first one, Driving the Green Book.
That one sounds great. Good one. Good choice.
Thank you.
Okay. My second one is another book that I've read several years ago. I feel like it was 2019 it was published, and it is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. Are you familiar with this one?
Mm-mm.
Oh, no. Okay. It's a wacky one, but it's not wacky. I shouldn't say that. It's a fantasy, but
Oh.
yeah, it's really good. So Justina Ireland is African American. This is a historical fantasy in which zombies begin walking the battlefield of Gettysburg and Chancellorsville, derailing the war between the states and changing all of American history. So it is a zombie book. And so it's a little scary because zombies
Wow.
actually freak me out, right? So
Yeah.
there is zombies. And 2 days before this happens, the heroine of our book, Jane, is born in this new America with zombies, in which the Civil War does not come to an end like it does.
Ooh.
Laws like the Native and Negro Re-Education Act require certain children to attend combat schools to learn to fight the zombies. So Jane is one of these children when she gets older that goes to this combat school. It gives you it opens up opportunities for you that these children may not have, but yet you're still following someone else's path for you. Jane is black, although she is the daughter of a white woman, but it doesn't protect her from everything. It protects her
Mm-hmm.
from not much. And she finds herself in a cultural environment in which some people want to return America to its glory days. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are political conspiracies going on. Families then start disappearing outside of Baltimore, like well to do families in Baltimore. And zombies may not be the worst thing that's going on in this new America. And there is a sequel called The Deathless Divide. Oh, it's fantastic. This book is amazing. I loved this one.
I might have to check this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's also that kind of alternate history sort of
Mhm.
thing, which I love the
I
concept.
do
I don't even
too.
think I've read that many in that genre, but I love the concept of it is that we get to see a different outcome,
Yeah.
a different way, yeah, from
Yeah.
history.
Me too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll include both of those in the show notes, but that sounds fascinating.
Yeah. And she's got a newer one out that came, but I can't remember the name of it, but came out a couple years ago, and I was like, "Oh, I've got to check out I think more of her backlist." I think she also writes for comics and graph and young adult books as well, so
Oh,
she's yeah,
okay.
prolific. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Oh my gosh. Okay. The next book, again, this was mentioned in the November podcast for Nonfiction November, is The Last Slave Ship, the true story of how Clotilda was found, her descendants, and an extraordinary reckoning by Ben Raines.
I remember you bringing that one, and that one sounds really good as well.
Yeah.
Okay, now this one may be on your list. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I'm so excited. So it's not out until March 19th, 2024, but it is James by Percival Everett, right?
Yoo-hoo.
I'm like, I gotta bring this one. I'm like, there's a chance Rebecca could bring it, but I'm like, I'm gonna bring it, put it on my list just in case. And if she doesn't, I can throw it in there.
Yeah.
It is a reimagining of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn, told from the enslaved Jim's point of view. And apparently, it's like a Jim, unlike the Jim from Huckleberry Finn. Like it's,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I cannot wait to read that.
me too. Me
And when
too.
does it come? Do you know when that publishing?
March 19th,
Ooh,
2024. Yep. So
March
get your holds
19th.
on. I put my hold on.
Yeah, I'm gonna thank you. As soon as
Yeah.
we are done here, I will be doing that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh, I can't wait. Ooh. Yeah, I just wanna go back. I mean, as we said before, he has written a lot. He's a prolific author.
Yeah.
So reading his backlist would take quite a while, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to do that eventually. So
Oh, maybe that can be our reading intention for 2025.
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think we're big fans. Just on his one book
Yeah.
alone, we're
Just
big
one book,
fans.
but I'm like, must read it.
Yeah, because it had zombies in it. It
Yep.
had American history in it. It had Black culture in it. It was just so brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything was
Fast
great about it.
paced, funny,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
like I should not be laughing at castrations, but I laughed at castrations. Like it's
Same here. And I'm just gonna put his I'm gonna put his other title because we're talking about the trees, so I'll
yes,
put
or
that
the
in the show
trees. I
notes
think
as
we should
well.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thought they could read my mind. They
Of
should
course.
be
Well,
able
we've
to.
talked about it so much. I talked
Yeah.
about it on a podcast, you've talked
I
about
think
it.
yeah.
It just keeps coming up because we love that book so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're huge fans. We should see if sometime we could talk to him, although I would be
Oh my
really
god.
intimidated to talk to him, but
Yeah, me too.
that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so my third book for this from this list that I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. This one actually won the oh man, National Book Award for Nonfiction
Hmm.
last year, which is South to America: A Journey Below the Mason-Dixon to Understand the Soul of a Nation by Imani Perry.
And these are all 3 books that you've purchased, right? You said?
Yes, these are 3 books that I own, and so because, again, one of my goals is always to finish whatever I buy in 1 year, I have 1 year to read it, so these are books that will be read this year, so I'm very
Nice.
excited
Nice.
because I'm actually looking forward to reading them as well. These
Yeah.
are 3 nonfiction titles that I was very excited when I purchased them, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, what do you have next?
Okay. So my 4th book I have not read. It's on my list though, obviously, and it is The African Samurai by Craig Shreve. Have you heard of this one? It was published in August 2023. I believe it's his
No.
first novel. Okay, set in 16th century Africa, India, Portugal, and Japan. The African Samurai is a historical novel based on the true story of Yasuki, Japan's first foreign born samurai and the only samurai of African descent.
Is that nonfiction?
No, it's fiction, but based on a true
But
story.
based on oh,
Yeah,
okay, I missed that somehow, yeah. Okay. Ooh,
I
that sounds
know.
really interesting.
It does. And I don't
Do you
know
know
what
how you came across that one?
I think I saw it on CBC Books on their website when it was published.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever read a samurai book either, like or a novel, a book with a samurai or anything. It'll be a first.
I have not either, so I look forward to that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one so I went to the library today to pick up a couple of holds, and I will just mention our good friend Jen Bookfiend
Hmm.
on Instagram, Bookstagram. Her mother-in-law has written a 3rd book in a series about Amelia Earhart, a character sort of, you know, related, not related, family related, but it's a related story about that time period. And she's publishing the 3rd book. So I'm going to go back and read the first 2 and then hopefully read the 3rd one and maybe even talk to the author in person on the podcast, I should say. But when I was in there, I thought, well, I'm just going to look at the nonfiction shelves. And one of the books I wanted to talk about tonight was sitting there. So da 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 da
Oh.
da da. And I will tell you the title is
Oh.
Black AF History: The Un-Whitewashed Story of America by Michael Harriot. And I just have to read this because I love this so much. America's backstory is a whitewashed mythology implanted in our collective memory. It is a sugar coated legend based on an almost true story. It could even be said that the devaluation and erasure of the Black experience is as American as apple pie. In this searingly smart and bitingly hilarious retelling of American history, acclaimed columnist and political commentator Michael Harriot combines unapologetically provocative storytelling with meticulous research to correct the record, placing Black people squarely at the center. Harriet presents a more accurate version of American history. And I just started reading it and it is hilarious. I mean, this man, what a
Really?
writer. Oh my God, he's really funny. So I think even though this book is something like, I don't know, in the 400 page, no, it's only like 395, but with a lot of notes and everything.
Oh, okay.
It seemed like a big, thick book to me when I first picked it up,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you what, I feel like I'm gonna zip through it because it just seems really fascinating. I'm gonna learn a ton,
Yeah.
and it's hilarious. It just right off the bat, it's hilarious. So,
Oh, that's
that's my
great. I
first book.
just looked it up. It's going on my TBR too, because that sounds amazing. And it's a great
Yeah.
title. Okay, my next one, I went with Frying Plantain by
Oh,
Zalika
yeah.
Reed Benta,
Mhm.
longlisted for the Giller in 2019. Uh, it's a collection of short stories that follow the main character, Kara Davis, through elementary school to high school graduation. It's a coming of age story in which Kara finds herself caught between her Canadian nationality and her Jamaican heritage. I read this collection in 2019 and I really enjoy it. It's yes, short stories, but they're all interconnected. It's the same character that just
Oh, I love
flows
that.
through. Yeah, it's a really good one. And then of course her follow-up, which came out last summer. Uh, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a
I
blank.
know.
The
River
River,
Mama.
that's it. River Mama. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So, which again, I love, you know that. I thought that was like a romp
Yeah.
through Toronto and I just flipping loved it. So I'm a big fan of her writing. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next.
Yeah. And I saw her in person at Eden Mills, Writers Festival, and she was just absolutely captivating. She was funny and interesting, and everything she said, I was just hanging on every word. I
Nice.
just thought she was just so cool. I thought she was
Yep.
so cool. My next book is titled Lies About Black People: How to Combat Racist Stereotypes and Why It Matters. And I just want to read a little bit. This is a really long description, but I'm going to cut out
Nope.
some of the parts I want to mention. It says in this honest and welcoming book, diversity and inclusion expert, professor, and award winning speaker, Dr. Omekongo Dibinga, argues that we must embark on a massive undertaking to re educate ourselves on the stereotypes that have proven harmful and too often deadly. And then it goes on to say whether those lies are pernicious, like the idea that, quote, most Black people are criminals, unquote, or seemingly innocuous, like the notion that, quote, Black people can't swim, unquote. All of the lies and stereotypes combated in this book are rooted in hate and continue to undermine not only Black people in America, but our society as a whole. And I heard him speak about his book on the NPR Book of the Day. And one of the things he said as he was talking, it dawned on me that often we say things like, "Oh, there's always a little bit of truth in every stereotype."
Mhm.
And I've grown up always hearing that and sort of falling into kind of believing it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
for example, I think we talk about like Black Americans often eat like certain things like pig's knuckles or certain types of foods. And well, the reason they did was because that's all when they were enslaved people, that's what they had to eat. They ate all the leftover body parts or things that, the white, landowners wouldn't eat, right?
Mhm.
So while there's a hint of truth to that, I think it's actually really just listening to him talk, I thought it's really harmful to even acknowledge those stereotypes in some way. And I'm just barely I just had that thought as he was speaking, so I cannot wait to read this and to get a better understanding. And he said initially he wrote this book for white allies. He said initially that's what he did. But then he started to realize that a lot of Black people needed to hear all of this as well. So this book is
Mhm.
just really for everybody.
Yeah.
So I am really excited to read this one.
Yeah. Me too. What was that title again, Rebecca?
So the title is Lies About Black People: How to Combat Racist Stereotypes and Why It Matters by Omekongo Dibinga. And Michael Eric Dyson has written the foreword for it as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, for my final book, I'm going back to 2005. I
Ooh,
know.
okay.
That's my time warp sound effect. Sorry, sorry. I should have stopped myself, but I didn't. And I'm going with George and Rue by George Eliot Clark. So George Eliot Clark is a well-known literary, oh my God, almost icon in Canada. He's a Canadian literary figure, well known,
Okay.
mostly a lot for his poetry and his plays, but also has done some fiction. This is a historical fiction, again, based on the real life story of two brothers, George and Rufus Hamilton, who were part Mi'kmaq and part African. And in 1949, New Brunswick, in a robbery gone wrong, they end up brutally killing a taxi cab driver. And then within 8 months are hanged for the killing. So it's a, yeah, the what really was the, I think, motivation for him to write this story too is that the author, Clark, learned from his mother shortly before her death that the two brothers were actually ancestral relatives of his. So he
Oh.
set out to discover what kind of forces would reduce these men to crime, violence, and ultimately murder. So it's a brutal murder, like killing. They
Yeah.
did it, but you get their story. Like, so they aren't just killers. You get the story of the men and the time and what brought them to that point. It's
Yeah.
it's a beautiful, because he's a poet, so his language, his writing is stunning.
Yeah.
He has written, before the book, has actually written a poem which is based on this story, and like the book was the next step after he'd written the poem, kind of thing. So I haven't read the poem. I'm going to search it out. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking.
I thought I
she's
thought, "Is that Jessie in the background?"
she's downstairs. I thought she was outside, but I think she's downstairs and thinks she sees someone. So my apologies. But
Nah.
anyways, yes, this was an amazing book. Loved this book.
Yeah. It's called George and
George
Rufus?
and Rue, Rue. So his name
R-U-E,
was
okay.
Rufus. Oh, my book is downstairs. I can't show it to you. Yes, Rue.
Okay. Wow, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good one.
You always have interesting stuff, I swear. I
Likewise,
just wanna
likewise.
I just wanna sit and read everything you've read, I swear. Every time I think about books to read and I have my own huge pile, and then remember titles you've talked about, and then I just go, "God bless, I'm never gonna live long enough to
Uh,
read all these books." But
Same,
anyway,
same.
yeah,
My
well,
TBR grows every day, but I'm okay with that.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so my last book, and this one I am really excited to read, and I kind of saved it for last. It is titled Wake: The Hidden History of Women-Led Slave Revolts, and it was published, I think, just last year. So it says here, part graphic novel, part memoir, Wake is an imaginative tour de force that tells the story of women-led slave revolts and chronicles scholar Rebecca Hall's efforts to uncover the truth about these women warriors who until now have been left out of the historical record. And I'm going to jump down here and just say, and they were erased from history. These women were erased from history. So Wake tells a story of Hall, who is a historian and granddaughter of slaves, and a woman haunted by the legacy of slavery. The accepted history of slave revolts has always been told to her that enslaved women took a back seat, but she decides to look a little bit deeper and discovers it says the journey takes her through old court records, slave ship captains' logs, crumbling correspondence, and even the forensic evidence from the bones of enslaved women from the Negro burying ground uncovered in Manhattan. She finds women warriors everywhere. And let me tell you, I am really excited to read this book.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like I'm like looking it up now, and I'm just like, holy, because it's a fiction, but you said also part graphic novel.
Yeah,
Oh, part
graphic novel and memoir. Yeah.
wow.
Because she is telling the truth of this. So I think it's still, it's funny. I think it's still going to be nonfiction, but I think it sounds like it's just they must have a lot of graphical images in it of
Yeah,
the characters, I guess.
yeah,
But yeah, I think it is nonfiction. So I'm just really excited to read this as well.
yeah,
And I will say these 3 books I'm talking about, they're definitely going to get read this year along with the other 3. So
yeah,
these are books that I don't want to, because there are other things that I thought, I can put them off. I'm a mood reader.
yeah.
I can put them off. But I really, maybe this month, now that my Canada Reads books are done, maybe these are the 6 books I'm really going to focus on for February.
I cheated. Of my list, there's only 2 that I haven't read, so I'm
Yeah.
like, cha-ching. I
Yeah.
totally
But
cheated. But
I also think you brought titles that people may not really know, like Dread Nation
mm,
for sure. And the new one by Percival Everett.
oh, yeah, we all have to read that.
Yeah, exactly. We all have to read. We should just do a big community read
Yeah,
for the Everett book for
yes,
sure. So, well, again, I think we did a pretty darn good job. We've given people
we
some
did.
older titles, some new titles, fiction, nonfiction for Black History Month.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And if you have any titles yourself that you're looking forward to reading, or you just want to let us know, leave them in the comments, send us a DM, an email, because we want to know. Yeah, and happy reading. Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.